I'm Gene Camarmi, and I consider myself to be a photographic artist. In this video today, I'd like to kind of discuss when a photograph becomes art and when does a photographer become an artist. Now, let me tell you how I became a photographic artist. In kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, I had been mentioning to my wife that I was a photographic artist, and she, of course, said, yeah, right. So, a couple years ago, I noticed an article in a local newspaper in Michigan that the Michigan Council of Arts was going to give away some grants to artists. So I went online, filled out a grant request. I thought maybe I'd try for $7,000 to build a photographic studio in my side yard. Well, needless to say, they said no. In fact, I think as soon as I pushed the send button on the email, it was a no. But I started getting mail, and the mail was addressed to me as Gene Camarmi, photographic artist. And I could go, I told you so, told you so. So, what really makes a photographic artist? Flori Zoe has a beautiful TED Talk on what makes a photograph art and a photographer an artist. It's really good. You can find it on YouTube. Take a look at it. But the basic idea is there are three things that make a photographer an artist. Number one, the photographer has to have mastered his craft. The area of interest in photography needs to be mastered. They've taken classes, they've done seminars, they've practiced. Secondly, other people have to believe that that photograph is art. When people look at it and say, wow, that's artistic, you've succeeded. And finally, the photographer himself or herself has to believe that their photography is art and they have to treat it with an artistic respect. Take a look at some photographic art and maybe spend a few moments looking at how we got from the camera picture to the artwork. Thank you. Okay, I spent years as a photographer. I did all the basic photography. I did weddings, bar mitzvahs, graduations. I even got to shoot Miss November. I mean, I've done it most of the photography I ever imagined I did. And now I'm an old man, and I'm a bit bored, and I wanted a new challenge. I want to create photographs that are my imagination. I want to create photographs of things that don't exist. So, I got involved in something better known as compositional photographic art, where you take bits and pieces of multiple pictures and put them together to make a new picture that only existed in the photographer's mind. Okay, now what we'd like to show you is kind of how we made one of those composite art pictures. We're going to take my Knocking on Heaven's Door, and I got the idea from the song, Knock Knockin' on Heaven's Door, and I thought there ought to be something that I could do that would kind of show everybody the meaning of that song out of my mind. So I started to pull some bits and pieces together that just might be what we need. The first thing I did was to try and get a background for it. And I just went on the internet and found some sheet music. And actually, it's probably from Mozart, but that's beside the point. This is the piece of sheet music I decided to use for the background. In addition to that, I needed some characters. The first one I found was off a can of beer. that I bought at my local grocery store. The beer is Voodoo Ranger, and I love the character on the beer can, so I decided, I'd use that. In addition, when I was down in Tubac, Arizona at an art fair, I saw this piece of art outside called a selfie, and I really liked her face. So I thought, well, I can crop into that picture or get a tight version and use the face. Now I've got the Voodoo Ranger face, I have the selfie face. I needed an angel, so I found one. Again, just a piece of art that I got off the internet, but I decided to customize it and make it my own. So I will put the image from the selfie and that together and see what I could do. So let's kind of just take a little peek here at what we've got. Okay, in order to start all of this process of taking those pictures and putting them back together into a composite, I have to have a photo editor available. And I use GIMP, which is a powerful open source video editor. And we're going to open that up. And GIMP is open here, and you can now see the bits and pieces in the final product. But over here on the right, you can see all the individual layers and what I did to them. Let's take and shut everything off and take a look at them one at a time. As I turn the layers off from view, we can see who's here and who isn't. So let's take one. We're going to turn the background on. Now the background is just a white plain background. Then on top of that, we put the sheet music. And here was that original piece of sheet music that I showed you. Then I decided to put the angel in. You remember the angel, except I've changed her face. And in a separate process, I took out the angel's face and I put in that statue selfie in place of it. If you'll notice, I also smeared around it this overlay with a transparency to give it just some more special effects. And now I added the blue door. It's from a trip to Tucson, a camera club trip called Windows and Doors. And then finally, I added the Ranger, the Voodoo Ranger, into it. Now I had to reverse him and turn him around. But basically, step by step, we did a little bit of pre-art work on the angel. We put the selfie statue in place of her face by copying and pasting it over. We added the Voodoo Ranger and flipped him around. We put the door in the middle. And the final step was I put one last overlay on, and then that was the weeds going around it and kind of erased it out to get this effect. This is the final product. Now, it precludes some things. You're not going to be able to do this instantly. This is not a process that one is just going to, oh, wow, I can do that. You're going to have to learn how to use a photo editor. It might be Photoshop Elements, it might be Affinity, it might be Luminar, but somewhere you have to learn to use a photo editor that will allow you to do these layers over here in a composite format. Alright, now let's just really quickly review some of the skills that you need to participate in creating your own photo art. Remember, in the beginning of the video we said there were some skills that you had to master to become an artist, and I think this is the process in its simplest form First of all, the photographer has to get an idea for a composite. You have to develop editing skills in photo editing software. And then finally, you'll create a composition that reflects that vision. Where do you get ideas for a composite picture? Well, you might do what I did and try listening to some music. Knocking on Heaven's Door, I did Hotel California, I did Stairway to Heaven. You might watch the news, and some earth-shaking event or just some story might kind of give you an idea for a composite. You might want to read some poetry or stories or watch a movie, but somewhere in your mind something has to come that would make a good composite. And finally, you have to learn to use an editor. How would you do that? Well, you might want to try some camera club classes. YouTube videos. YouTube is a repository for most knowledge in the world. You can go there, plug in the name of the particular video editor you're interested in learning how to use, and I'm sure there just are a series of lessons. For example, you can go on YouTube and find Davis Media, and they have some wonderful YouTube classes on using GIMP. And finally, you can use that call a friend card. Find somebody you know who is doing photo editing and see if they won't give you a little bit of help and do some photo editing with you.